This ache you feel, it's not confusion, it's a summons. You weren't imagining the connection. You were remembering the assignment. It didn't fade because it wasn't emotional. It lingers because it's eternal. Was it heartbreak, or was it heaven's blueprint cracking open? Was it a goodbye, or was it God's delay guarding a greater alignment? Did they walk away, or were they being prepared on a path parallel to yours? Stay, because by the end of this message, what you feel, that persistent whisper in your spirit, will finally make sense. The face you can't shake, the dreams that repeat, the name that resurfaces. It's not obsession, it's prophecy in rehearsal. Welcome to Chosen One's Sanctuary, where what was hidden in silence is spoken in revelation, and those marked by God are called out of delay and into divine clarity. The Word says in Ecclesiastes 3:11, "He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the human heart." That ache, that pull, that bond that refuses to break, it's eternity whispering through your chest. It's not over. Chosen One, stay, because the signs that are about to unfold may explain your entire life. The divine pulse, why you can't let go. Some connections are felt in the blood, but this one echoes in the spirit. It doesn't fade with time, it deepens. It doesn't weaken with distance, it waits. You've called it longing, obsession, emotional residue, but heaven calls it a living scroll. What you've been wrestling with is not your heart, it's your assignment. The ache you feel isn't for a person, it's for what they carry and what your spirit remembers. God doesn't allow chosen ones to move on when what they're leaving behind is still connected to destiny. You weren't stuck, you were tethered to something eternal. You weren't haunted by memories, you were hailed by mission. Joseph didn't just dream of his brothers. He saw divine alignment before it was time. David felt the pull to the palace before he ever touched the throne. And you, chosen one, you've been feeling echoes from a chapter that hasn't even opened yet. So ask yourself, what if the pull isn't to revisit the past, but to recognize the future? Echoes in the silence. When time doesn't break the bond. In this world, time erodes what isn't real, but in the kingdom, time reveals what is eternal. The silence hasn't broken the bond, it's proven it. You didn't speak, but the connection kept breathing. No texts, no presence. But the Spirit kept remembering. Why? Because chosen ones are trained in silence. God doesn't build covenant with noise, He forges it in stillness. Just like Moses was pulled into the wilderness before his commission, you too were pulled apart, not to lose each other, but to learn each other in absence. The silence wasn't distance, it was divine surveillance. And the longer the silence lasted, the louder the Spirit spoke. Because when something is written in the scroll, it does not rot, it waits for permission to awaken. What if the time apart wasn't the end, but the evidence that this bond was never human to begin with? Divine rehearsals, repeated encounters are not random. You thought it was random, a dream, a post, a place, but every return was a rehearsal. God doesn't repeat what He's forgotten. He repeats what's being prepared. The person you keep encountering, in spirit, in signs, in story, is not a ghost from your past. They are a preview from your future. Ruth wasn't supposed to meet Boaz at the field, but heaven choreographed the footsteps. Because when destiny is ready, it collides with precision disguised as coincidence. You weren't imagining it. You were invited back into alignment. Every return is a breadcrumb. Every encounter is a checkpoint. Every sign is heaven tapping your shoulder, saying, "Watch this again. It wasn't over." And if this resonates, comment 4404 now as a prophetic sign that you're still listening, still receiving, and still being prepared for the reintroduction. The spiritual mirror. They awaken a version of you that you forgot. Some people enter your life to entertain your ego, but others arrive carrying a mirror forged in fire. And when they stand before you, you don't just see them. You see the you God wrote before the world redefined you. They don't inspire lust. They provoke legacy. They don't flatter. They ignite. Every time you're near them, your spirit remembers who it's supposed to be. You pray clearer. You think deeper. You see yourself differently. Like Mary visiting Elizabeth, and the child leapt in her womb. Their presence causes something holy to jump inside you. They didn't complete you. They reawakened what was buried. And isn't that what divine connection does? It doesn't stroke your comfort. It summons your calling. So ask yourself, what version of you only shows up when they're near? And who told you to bury that version? The mission code. Your purposes are intertwined. Before you felt love, before you even learned their name, your scrolls were already touching in heaven's archive. This is not romance. It's reinforcement. You weren't designed to walk alone. God builds partnerships that break atmospheres, like Moses and Aaron, like Esther and Mordecai, like Paul and Silas. You and this person. You carry keys to doors each other cannot unlock alone. Heaven doesn't pair emotions. Heaven pairs assignments. You weren't sent to be each other's escape. You were sent to be each other's alignment. And every area where you feel unqualified, they carry grace. And every dream they fear, you carry confirmation. This is why no other bond has felt the same. Because no other bond has carried the same weight. So ask yourself, was this connection designed for comfort or for conquest? Darkness. Confrontation. Why hell targeted you early? You were attacked before you were activated, mocked before you were mature, rejected before you were even aware of the assignment. And that wasn't coincidence. That was strategy from hell. Because when two chosen ones unite under heaven's timing, they don't just build a life. They birth a movement. So the enemy sent confusion, sabotage, delay, distraction. Not to destroy the bond, but to derail the assignment. Just as Pharaoh issued a death decree at Moses' birth, just as Herod sought to kill Jesus before he could speak, hell comes for the chosen before they rise. The attacks weren't personal. They were preventative. Because if you ever aligned fully, if you both ever stood in agreement, your lives would rewrite generational blueprints. So remember, the warfare was the proof. The resistance was the receipt. You're not under attack because you're weak. You're under attack because you're dangerous to darkness. Kingdom consequences. When you resist divine alignment. To delay what God ordained is to diminish what heaven intended. Some of you are tired because you've been resisting a connection God has been trying to refine. You didn't reject the person, you rejected the process. But when chosen ones abort the mission, when they refuse the alignment, the weight doesn't disappear. It transfers into delay, distraction, and spiritual fatigue. When you avoid the assignment, the ache increases. When you deny the connection, the calling gets heavier. Jonah tried to run, and the storm didn't follow him because of sin. It followed him because of purpose. So what storms have followed you, not because you're broken, but because you're misaligned? The remnant bond. You're not the only one feeling this. This isn't just your story. All over the world, others are waking up with the same ache, the same person on their mind, the same dreams repeating. Because God isn't just restoring connections. He's reuniting remnants. There are others just like you, silent, longing, waiting, discerning. Not for romance, for release. God is raising divine duos, prophetic partnerships, not for comfort, but for conquest. You're not waiting for a person. You're preparing for a collision of callings. And when it comes, the world will not understand. But heaven will recognize the sound. So who else is out there? feeling what you feel, but afraid to say it aloud. Echo activation. The bond isn't just personal, it's prophetic. This isn't about how you feel, it's about what you carry. Together, you're not just a couple, you're a kingdom current. When your scrolls align, they create thunder in the spirit. Hearts heal, chains break, assignments accelerate. Like Elijah passing the mantle to Elisha, this bond isn't about proximity, it's about purpose transfer. You were drawn to each other for a reason, and that reason is about to be reawakened. You don't just remember them. Your spirit remembers why they matter. This isn't obsession, it's divine recall. And now, God is not just stirring your memory, He is summoning your obedience. Because when the appointed time arrives, what was once buried in silence will rise in power. You weren't obsessed, you were orchestrated, not led by longing, but by the whisper of a scroll awakening in your spirit. That name, that connection, that ache that refused to die. It wasn't a distraction, it was a divine remembrance, because heaven never forgets what it authored. Chosen one. You have wrestled with silence. You have carried the weight of dreams without interpretation. You have prayed through confusion, cried through distance, and waited without answers. And yet, here you are, still standing, still sensing, still listening, because deep down, you knew this wasn't just about love, it was about legacy. The bond you couldn't explain was never meant to be explained. It was meant to be revealed. At the appointed time, you were remembered, you were reserved, and now, you are being recommissioned. If your spirit knows this was confirmation, comment 777 right now, not as a trend, but as a prophetic act. An echo into the spirit realm that you are ready. Ready to release the past. Ready to discern the timing. Ready to walk not in emotion, but in alignment. Share in the comments what stirred your spirit, what memory was resurrected, what part of your calling this message has reawakened. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to Chosen One Sanctuary, this sacred space where the hidden are revealed and the marked are gathered. Because this is not just a channel, it is a remnant rising. You are not alone. You are the next echo.